Hello and welcome to JRock's Babylon. This is our New Year's Day special. Wow, I can't believe this is the first day of 2026. How was New Year's for you guys? Since the start of a new year, I thought we'd talk about some things that typically happen at the beginning of each new year. And typically, you hear about a lot of crazy new laws. Well, I looked some up, and I tell you, I found some. Okay, so we're gonna start the New Year's special off talking about some crazy new laws here in California. Okay, complete plastic bag ban. Now, I tell you guys, this really kind of just gets under my skin. It really irks me. I mean, okay, if plastic bags is really such a major problem, how come they don't have this bag ban in all 50 states? It's because again, certain politicians they just want a virtue signal, and um, I don't know. I remember a few years ago when they first started this plastic bag ban in California. I mean, first it was okay. First they tried to ban the bag, and then they brought the plastic bag back, and then you had a choice. And okay, well, do you want paper or plastic? And if you want whatever your choice is, we're going to charge you like 10 cents per bag. Okay, well, if they're going to do something like that, I don't mind so much because, hey, I mean, okay, it's another revenue stream is really what it is. Okay, another way for the state and the grocery stores and that to make some revenue. But I thought, okay, you know what? They're at least giving me a choice. You don't have to pay the 10 cents per bag. Other people started bringing other kinds of bags to the grocery store. Um, and many people like me just said, you know what? Oh, F it. I'll pay the 10 cents for a bag. And if for no other reason, for really the convenience of it all, because, when you go shopping, I mean, those plastic bags, I hate to say, was one of the greatest creations ever made. I mean, they can hold groceries and cans and stuff you buy, um, much better than paper bags. But okay. So at one time we were given a choice, plastic or paper, whatever you get, though you're gonna have to pay 10 cents for. I was willing to pay the 10 cents fee because it was still convenient. And then of course you use the plastic trash bags for what else? But to put your trash in at home. And then take it out of the alley. I mean, so now, and you started seeing this new plastic bag. At least I did. Um, 2 3 months ago, they started. We don't have plastic bags anymore. And then at least like places like the Dollar Tree, they still had plastic bags. But even the Dollar Tree now, you're lucky if you're able to get a plastic bag. And yes, if they have them, you have to pay the 10 cents fee. But I've even noticed a lot of Dollar Trees are kind of phasing out the plastic bags. I guess it's something they have to do by law, and can't really fault the companies, the grocery stores for doing it because it's mandatory. And so I just, for kicks, was looking up, okay, what would happen if there's a rebel grocery store out there or a rebel Dollar Tree or something like that that said, we're going to still provide plastic bags to our customers. Well, if they get caught, they get fined $1,000 a day per incident, I guess. Oh, that's another way for a state of California to make a ton of money doing nothing, taking more money out of California residents' pockets. But okay, that's what they live to do, folks. Okay, so that's one crazy new law and you're going to be seeing it more and more. And I tell you, um, the thing I hate more than anything is just the inconvenience. So you don't have much choice. You either give in to the ban or you don't. And you know, sometimes people take their own shopping bag. Okay, I guess you could do that, but um, even I okay, well, give me a paper bag. If that's all you got, I'll take a paper bag because I still need stuff to carry the groceries in, right? Um, and of course they could at least I think figure a way to make the paper bags a little stronger. Paper bags don't last. I mean, tell you, last couple of times I've been to the grocery store, by the time I get my items to the in the paper bag to the car, and it's much even lifting the grocery bag. You gotta lift it from the bottom, and what happens when you lift from the bottom? The whole bag tariffs. Okay, thanks a lot to Gavin Newsom in the state of California. But that's just one of these crazy laws. Okay, so again, okay, so now they always like to kind of state of California is like really a nanny state. They like to kind of tell us what to do, and they even went as far as people that own apartment buildings and houses. They want to tell them how to run their apartment buildings. So this is another new thing. In the state of California, landlords now must have a working stove and refrigerator in all rental units. Now, for most of my life, I mean, somebody moved in an apartment building, and you know it was and they did kind of have a refrigerator and a stove. It wasn't something that was kind of demanded that you do. I mean, a lot of times I remember countless times in my lifetime moving in a place, and like my mother had her own stove and her own refrigerator, and my father, and so they bring what we had. It wasn't, the state wasn't able to really demand that the landlord provide that stuff. Now, if the landlord did, it was kind of considered a luxury. But again, the state of California getting into people's business, telling them how to do this stuff. Okay, so here's some more fun stuff. Um, landlords are now required by law in California for any appliance that may be in the apartment building or a place you're renting. Not only do you have to provide a refrigerator and a stove, but if any of the appliances get recalled, you're required within 30 days to replace it. Now, again, I mean, I didn't really read what happens if they wait 31 or 32 days. What probably some kind of fine, humongous fine. California is just notorious for regulations and stuff like this, and they're always looking for ways to tell people how to run their apartment buildings and their property and stuff, and just really is a nanny state. And again, okay, I see a reason maybe for a law like this, that if you got a slumlord, but that's kind of the exception and not the general. But of course, that's part of the reason these politicians make these kind of laws. Okay, so now AB 366. This is a law passed in California. Now, I'm kind of in favor of this one. Requires that drunk driving offenders, in order to start their car, must have one of those ignition interlock devices on their car. That's where if you get in the car and it's got like a breathalyzer and you got to breathe into it, and if there's the slightest bit of alcohol in your breath, the car locks up. It will not allow you to drive it. Now, I like that for so many reasons, because so many people get killed and seriously hurt by drunk drivers every year just because they don't have the common sense not to get in their car and and not drive drunk. And so I think again, you unlike with the plastic bag ban, I don't think this is something that you want to give a drunk driver choice on. Well, okay, we're giving you a choice. We're going to trust that you're going to do the right thing. Especially a lot of these drunk drivers are repeat offenders. They've been in more than one drunk driving incidents. Maybe hurt more than one or killed more than one or two people. They and California is really weak on kind of punishing these people. And so I think if anything, a law like this, there's probably ways of getting around it, but I think a law like this at least decreases the possibility of people driving their cars drunk. And like I said, there's probably all kinds of ways of getting around it, but this is one time where like a drunk driver's not given a choice. Okay, well, we're going to trust that you're going to do the right thing, especially if somebody's been convicted of drunk driving more than once. I think repeat offenders, maybe the penalties need to be harsher. I mean, again, I don't think you have a right to get in a car and endanger your life or other people's lives because you wanted to go out and have a good time for whatever reason. So again, one of these new laws in 2026 that I'm kind of in favor of. Um, Now let's talk about some people, some famous people we've lost in 2025. Okay, here's a list I was able to come up with. Um, Gene Hackman. Now, Gene Hackman was a great legendary actor. I mean, he was in movies like I believe it was A Hunt for Red October. Um, he was just a great actor, and it's kind of sad that him and his wife were kind of found in their home and not really known. It took a while to find out what, but they were just kind of from what reports were of Gene Hackman. He was kind of he suffering from dementia, and him and his wife were found in the house, and they died tragically together. Um, one of my all time favorite heroes, Ozzy Osbourne. Of course, Ozzy, the singer from Black Sabbath and successful solo artist for many years, the last 10 to 15 years, Ozzy was suffering with Parkinson's disease. So it wasn't a total surprise when it was announced that Ozzy had passed last July. Now, right before Ozzy passed away, they performed a final Black Sabbath concert with all four original guys, and they had a slew of special guests that played the event. The concert was called Back to the Beginning. And again, it was Ozzy's final performance. He'd been suffering for many years, like I said, with Parkinson's disease. And so he was not able to like go and give his like the best performance of his life. That's not what this was. This was, I think, Ozzy knew that the end was near. He wanted to do one final show with Sabbath, and this was kind of like a way to say goodbye to the fans. And and I think what ended up happening was so people when they went to see the concert, they were not expecting Ozzy to give the best performance of his life. That was not what this was. He was in fact in a chair because he was weak from part. He was not able to completely stand the whole time. So he sat in a chair and he sang about, I think, 5 or 6 songs, and they had some special guests come up and perform some of the songs. Very special event where Ozzy got to say goodbye. And again, like 2 weeks later, he passes away. And when I heard the news breaking, I will say this though, Ozzy Osbourne is an interesting pop culture figure. I mean, known as a great heavy metal singer, but an entertainer. Later in his career, he became really famous as a reality TV show star. They had the Osbournes with him and his family, Sharon and his kids, Kelly and Jack, and the Osbournes became like everybody's. I mean, so Ozzy went from being like just a popular, singer to now he's all of a sudden popular reality TV star, and people that knew nothing about Ozzy and his musical career, maybe even didn't even own a Ozzy Osbourne or Black Sabbath record, were now a fan of Ozzy. And so by the time Ozzy died, he had a completely different, fan base. And again, by the time Ozzy dies, he'd been doing this for like, at least 40, 50 years. And so this was a great way to say goodbye to Ozzy. And that's really what it was. And two weeks later, he had passed. And so I think myself, Ozzy specifically, knew that his time was limited, and he wanted to do the one final show before he did pass. And I think if you watch the performance, or if you got a chance to watch it or be there, you got to see that he really put every bit of his energy that he had left in him to do that final concert. Ace Frehley was another one of my heroes that we lost this year. Of course, original Kiss guitarist and a successful solo artist in his own right. Ace Frehley, sadly, he took a fall in his home studio, and then he just kind of really went downhill from there. And he basically slipped into a coma, and basically the ultimate cause of death was a bleeding brain hemorrhage. And I think what had happened, he'd suffered like two of these falls, and he never really was the same again. And sadly, Ace died right before Kiss was honored at the Kennedy Center Honors this year, and it was something that he was reportedly very excited about attending. But of course, with his death, he didn't get to be there. But his presence was felt at the they honored. They did a great tribute at the Kennedy Center Honor, talking about Ace, and the band was honored for 50 years of being in the performing arts business. And so Ace was another kind of major hero of mine that I lost this year, like so many Kiss fans. And I remember the day actually that Ace died. I was at work, and when stuff like this happens, everything happens over the internet. I mean, the news was breaking all day, and it went from rumors of Ace's death to no, he's not dead yet, but he's on his deathbed basically. He's on life support. He's been put on life support at this point. And then so I mean, every hour going by that day, the news is kind of constantly changing. And then by the time I get home, it's reported that yeah, Ace has indeed, in fact, passed away, and it was sad, and I felt it in real time. And so again, the news is kind of breaking all day long on that one. Robert Redford, another legendary actor, just kind of got to that stage in life where, I mean, I believe he was like in his late 80s. So, his heart just gave out from what I understand, and that lost another legend there. I remember one of the last things I enjoyed seeing him in was Captain America movie, actually. So he got to be part of that Marvel universe, and there's, things like Out of Africa, so many other great films throughout his career that you guys can go check. Val Kilmer, he died of cancer, of course. I believe it was throat cancer. He was pretty young when he passed away, I think in his early 60s. And but he had been sick for a while. And in fact, the very last thing I think he did before he died was the final Top Gun movie. So so what a way to kind of go out. But Val Kilmer, I remember seeing him in The Doors, as Jim Morrison. And so that was when his career was kind of just on the rise. So man, what a way to kind of two great movies. What a bookend for his career. Kind of starting with The Doors as Jim Morrison, and then you end with with the final or the latest Top Gun movie. Okay, and then of course former Vice President Dick Cheney towards the end of the year died. He, from what I understand, he had a heart attack. He had suffered with heart disease for most of his life, and it's what finally took him out. Okay, now another thing that is kind of interesting at the end of each year is to see, always see like, okay, what companies have went out of business? What companies are still around? Well, I came up with an interesting list as far as companies that went out of business. Rite Aid. Now, Rite Aid, it's a big deal to me and many people because it was one of the very first drugstores, that really became big. And I believe, Rite Aid dates back to the like early 1950s, I think. And Rite Aid was famous for their ice cream. I remember, in fact, we had a Rite Aid for years right across the street from where I live, in Long Beach, California. And it was very convenient for many reasons. I mean, you needed any kind of like, they had a little bit of a grocery section in the Rite Aid. You could go buy groceries there. You could buy whatever you needed, like you buy ice cold water or soda or something on a hot summer day. But what they were really famous for was ice cream. Like I said, I can't tell you how many days I go to a Rite Aid, walk across the street just to get an ice cream on a hot summer day. You could either get a classic like sugar cone or waffle cone. They give you a choice, or did you want it in a cup? And then of course, some people didn't want just one scoop, but they want 2 or 3 scoops. And so depending on how many scoops you got, that would affect how much the ice cream costs. Of course, Rite Aid was also convenient for going and getting your prescriptions, your medication. Can you imagine living right across the street? I gotta go get my medication, or I got a cold or I'm sick, so I'm gonna go get some medication, make me feel better. It was real convenient, I tell you. Our Rite Aid went out of business about 3 or 4 years ago, and they haven't put anything in the building. It just sits there empty. I sure do miss going and having that convenience. And apparently, what put Rite Aid out of business was just competition. They could not compete with CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart. All these other stores, they had a lot more. They got bigger. They were taking away the Rite Aid customers. So that was very sad to see Rite Aid kind of come to an end. And then, folks, okay, yeah. So let me see here. Okay, yeah. Oh, okay. So and then I heard Hooters. How many of you guys went to Hooters? And I think we all know what Hooters is. They have a sexy waitresses dressed in the little skippy of you know white tank tops and those little orange short shorts. And it was a popular like sports bar for many years. And so there's still a few Hooters around, but more and more of them are closing up. And I don't know, maybe it's just because they were around for so many years. There are other places like Buffalo Wild Wings and things like that are kind of stealing their thunder. So again, it's kind of sad to see these things come to an end. But as I say, all great things come to an end now. I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about because the very first broadcast of Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve. Now, Dick Clark, for anybody that doesn't know, he was a huge presence like during my lifetime on TV. I mean, and starting with New Year's Eve, every year, he would host what was called Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve. And Dick Clark, of course, was a huge TV personality. Throughout the years, he hosted American Bandstand, different game shows like the $25,000 Pyramid. And so Dick Clark, and of course, like I said, American Bandstand. So he, for many years, was a huge presence on TV. And Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve was one of the very first TV shows that you'd watch where they would actually drop the ball at midnight every New Year's Eve, and they would have live performances and stuff on the TV broadcast. So Dick Clark, New Year's Rockin' Eve, that's where all that pretty much got started. I thought it'd be fun to go back and kind of take a look at the very first one. This is what I was able to find out. Okay, so the very first broadcast of Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve premiered on NBC on December 31st, 1971. Now, that was the first year the show was on. So the very first year, the headlining act performing that night was Three Dog Night, which is a very popular rock band at the time. And so that year, they actually call it Three Dog Night's Rockin' New Year's Eve. But the following year, in 1972, until his death, even after his death, because even the show they had on last night, they still call it Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve, even though Ryan Seacrest now hosted. Ryan Seacrest, another kind of popular, kind of a younger version, I guess, these days of Dick Clark. Ryan Seacrest got his start on the radio and American Idol. That's where a lot of people first came to see him. So that's probably why he was chosen as Dick Clark's replacement. But again, folks, I just don't understand. Like, you would think they would show like some flashbacks, memories of Dick Clark, because it's still named after him, but they really don't. It's just kind of a way to pay tribute to the late great Dick Clark. So another thing I found out interesting was Dick Clark himself. He reported from Times Square. Times Square is this section of New York, every year where they drop the ball. So even going back to the very first show of Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve, he was reporting from Times Square, and New York was the place to be. And that's where all the big TV networks were for the most part, either on the East Coast in New York or on the West Coast here in Los Angeles. So that's the thing to kind of keep remembering about this time in the 1970s. And here's another interesting thing that being from Long Beach, California myself, I never even realized till doing the research for this episode we're doing here. The live performances were pre-recorded on the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. So again, it's interesting for me to learn that Long Beach, California has a connection to Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, going back to the very first one. Okay, and so now here's some things that happened with this show throughout the years. So in the 1990s, they included live performances from both the East Coast and the West Coast. So you'd have performers and people showing up in both New York and LA. And so they would show that on the TV, and that kind of gave a show kind of a different aspect instead of just constantly being in New York. Gave people something different to look at, gave people opportunity to, oh, well, I can't go to New York, but I live in Los Angeles, so maybe I can go down where they're taping the live performances and we can be there. So it became another aspect of the show. And then they started to have throughout the years, you'd see where they cut to commercial before they go to commercial, they come back. Dick Clark be doing an interview with some of the celebrity guests that would show up. And so that became another aspect of a show. And then finally, Dick Clark died in 2012, and Ryan Seacrest has been the host ever since, like I said. So that is kind of interesting. Now, to wrap up our New Year's Day special, I wanted to kind of research how some of the New Year's traditions got started, and here's what I was able to find out. Now, it's funny because I forgot about this, but an old kind of really kind of New Year's tradition is to kiss somebody at midnight. Well, let's look into that. So it says, well, actually, why do people make wishes at midnight? Here's what I was able to find out. Midnight is a threshold moment. It's a symbolic doorway between the past and the future. So, like last night, if you were celebrating New Year's Eve, it's a way to look back and fondly and say goodbye to 2025. And hey, we're moving ahead to 2026 and looking at what lies ahead. Okay. And so making wishes at midnight also represents a fresh start, and hope, a chance to make a clean slate. So, okay, 2025 is behind us, but we're now thinking, we're now in 2026 as I sit here and talk. So, no more talk about what happened in 2025. We're look at the future. 2026 is here. So, that's another reason. It's another chance to do things right. Like, okay, well, I really messed up. I did this thing wrong, all last year. So we're gonna turn things around this year. I think 2026 can be even better. Okay, and it's also a long-standing New Year's tradition, has been to kiss someone at midnight, and this is basically to avoid loneliness in the new year, or people kiss somebody at midnight kind of gives them hope. They not only will not be lonely in the new year, but hope for maybe them to find love or a new relationship, or not to give up on that. So that is a long-standing kind of tradition, and it is believed that you should not loan or borrow money on New Year, so that you'll have money in your pocket for the new year. And this is an Asian custom. And again, folks, I am Jason JRock Houston. I've been your host for our New Year's Day special. That's what this has been. We've kind of looked back on kind of the history of New Year's Eve, how some of these traditions got started. We talked about some people we lost this year. And I tell you, we're just getting started at JRock's Babylon. This is our first show for 2026. What a way to kick it off. So you know what? If you liked what we did in 2025, like I said, we're just getting started. 2026 is right now, right here. We are moving ahead, folks. So Happy New Year. Hope 2025 was great for you. 26 is going to be even better. So continue to tune in. That's what we're here for. Thanks. Bye for now.